McLaren Automotive is marching into its second decade, having produced 25,000 cars since it handed over the first set of keys to a 12-seat owner. And now it's putting all of its 10 years of knowledge into this, the new Artura, and it's going green. I'm not just talking about the colour either, because this is a plug-in hybrid.
While we get into the ins and outs of the Artura, make sure you subscribe to the Auto Express YouTube channel and click on the bell icon to get notifications as soon as new videos go live. Of course, electrification isn't a new thing for Woking's finest. The P1 was the first and phenomenal example of what the brand can do when it mixes power sources. Then there's the Speedtail, which uses a hybridised drivetrain to achieve its bonkers 1036 brake horsepower output and 250 mph plus top speed. And while the Artura doesn't have the drama of the Speedtail or the P1, this could be one of the most exciting releases for McLaren in some time, because this is the car that will take on the likes of the Ferrari F8 Tributo, the Porsche 911 Turbo S and the Lamborghini Huracan. In the past, McLaren has split its range into three categories: Sport Series models like the 570S, Super Series like the 720S, and Ultimate like the Senna. But from now on, the groupings are getting a little tweak. The Ultimate category continues at the top, but beneath that is the new supercars family. Then there's the GT category for, well, the GT. The Artura is in the supercars class, so think of it like a 570S Plus. McLaren reckons that the Artura delivers the purest supercar driving sensation in the range.
So let's get on to the big story of the Artura, which is lurking below this laser cut section of aluminium here. Because while the hybrid system is new, it's not only the electrical system which is making a debut. Previously, all the modern day McLarens have used a twin turbocharged V8, but not this one, because under there's a V6. Now it's got a very wide 120-degree V-angle, and that brings with it a few benefits. Firstly, it can be mounted really low in the car for a low centre of gravity, and secondly, it gives them space to put two turbos between the V.
It's completely unrelated to the previous V8, with little more than a few nuts and bolts carried over. The result is 577 brake horsepower, and the V6 will rev to 8,500 RPM on the downshift. Even on its own, that power output is a touch up on the 570S, but the numbers don't end there. An electric motor is squeezed within the bell housing of the twin clutch gearbox and adds another 94 brake horsepower and 225 Nm. Experience gained from the P1 means that the Artura's E-motor provides a little torque fill between gear changes, so there's no let up in acceleration. There's also no reverse gear in that 8-speed transmission. By reversing the polarity of the motor, backing up is done silently and electrically. But when you're going in the other direction, the numbers that really matter are 671 brake horsepower and 720 Nm of torque.
And there is more than enough acceleration on offer. The Artura gets from 0 to 62 miles an hour in 3 seconds flat, onto 124 in 8.3 seconds. That means it's just 1/10 behind the 720S at 62 and half a second behind by 124. Top speed is 205 miles an hour. And when you're not wringing its neck, the Artura can do 19 miles on electric charge alone and average about 50 mpg on a WLTP cycle.
That V6 hybrid is bolted to a brand new carbon fibre tub called McLaren Carbon Lightweight Architecture, or MCLA for short. The combination of such a strong, light architecture and the fact that the V6 weighs a little less than the V8 means that the Artura tips the scales at 1,498 kilos. That's only 46 kilograms more than the 570S, not bad considering that it's also carrying around a 7.4 kWh battery. The tub itself is now constructed at McLaren Composites Technology Centre near Sheffield, which is a little more convenient than shipping in the previous structures from Austria. The engine is 150mm shorter than the V8 too, and the wheelbase, which is 2.64 metres, is 3 cm shorter than the 720S. There's a redesigned multi-link wishbone suspension system at the rear, and steering is still hydraulically assisted, as McLaren is convinced that it gives better feel and feedback than an electric setup. The tyres are Pirelli P0s, but with a difference, as they feature what's been dubbed cybercar technology. Now this all sounds a bit Skynet, and it kind of is. A little chip in the carcass of each tyre can feed back telemetry data to the car. The Artura can then know not only which models of tyres are fitted and how many miles they've done, but their current operating temperature, so it can adjust the response of its stability control systems to suit the conditions. Very clever.
Let's move on to the styling then, where the Artura is kind of familiar but also quite a bit different. The Artura has elements of the Speedtail in the front narrow lights with the slits that go along the sides, and there's these vents here which help to reduce lift at high speed. Moving along the flanks, there's this large air intake which has elements of 650S to it to help cool the engine, and then these buttresses which merge into this massive single clamshell at the rear. Going around to the back, we have these very thin, skinny tail lights which are very like those on the GT, and then you have these big twin tailpipes taking centre stage on either side of the new badge.
While the carbon tub has meant that getting into some previous McLarens has become a bit of a gymnastic act, opening the stunning swan wing doors of the Artura, and you'll see that the sills of the MCLA are slimmed down towards the front, making it a little easier to get in.
And once you are inside, you can really see where those 10 years of development have gone. Take these shift paddles for example. They're on a rocker so that you can shift up or down with either side, and the steering wheel itself, well, McLaren must be one of the only brands that have decided not to fire a load of stupid buttons all over the wheel because it's completely clean. So to keep everything close to hand, McLaren has moved the drive mode switches from down on the centre console here up to these little panels at the top. The other thing that you notice inside here is the space. Now McLaren tells me that people who are 6'4" or 6'5" can easily get comfortable inside here now. I'm going to have to take their word for it. But what I can tell you is I really like the way this fixed back bucket reclines on its own axis to give you the best possible driving position.
Storage space is improved over previous cars thanks to a centre storage bin and enlarged door pockets. Up front, there's a 160 litre boot, 10 litres more than you get from the 570S.
And no matter how big you are, the digital instrument binnacle will always be in the right place because that adjusts with the steering wheel. And then there's the infotainment system, which is all new, and it's quicker than ever thanks to a new Ethernet architecture.
McLaren says that this is a world first for a road car, and it means that it helps the cables weigh 10% less than in the old setup. It also helps to speed up the data transmission and to make it a little easier to update in future. The system itself uses the same basic processor as the GT, but with a little more power unlocked. The screen has improved latency too, so it should be quicker and more precise to the touch. McLaren has also introduced a range of adaptive driver assist systems to its range with the Artura. A forward-facing camera enables systems like adaptive cruise control with speed limit recognition and lane departure warning to be fitted. When it comes to emissions, the PHEV powertrain means that on paper, the Artura could be as clean as a family hatchback. Officially, it'll emit 129 grams per kilometre of CO2, but that's only realistic if you're going to spend most of your time posing around town at 15 miles an hour. Charging through a standard 3-pin plug takes 2.5 hours.
Now, you might think that all of that tech and the price of McLaren's previous hybrids means that the Artura would command a huge sum, but in fact, it's actually priced between the GT and the 720S. Buyers in the UK can order one now from £185,500.
And that's a punchy figure compared to its rivals. Ferrari asks over 200 grand for the F8, while its own hybrid, the SF90, although it has more power, is just over double the price of the Artura. But what do you think? Would you choose the Artura over rivals from Ferrari and Lamborghini? Or do you believe that a supercar must have more than 6 cylinders? Let us know in the comments below, and thanks for watching.